for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Hope everyone's doing well. Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, is Thursday, September 12th. You're watching on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter. Thank you for watching and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for that. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Bittt, Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer. Perfect for the hot summer days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 to 12 at grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. And brought to you by Playground. The World Series of Poker Circuit is back at Playground for the must-play poker event of the season, featuring 15 championship ring events, over $3 million in guaretees with a $1.5 million guaranteed main event. The WSOP C Playground Poker Series is on until September 3rd. Visit playground.ca for more details. This gentleman and I had a chance to see each other a couple of days ago at the, an unveiling of the Montreal Canadiens series that's going to be on Crave starting on September 18, where they're going to show 8 episodes, and he and I had a chance to see the first one. I'm talking about Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, Tony. Not only did I get to see you there, I got to see you on the screen as part of the documentary also.
Yeah, on a couple of occasions. Yes. It's nice. It was nice. It was cool. And just a reminder of how ugly I am. But anyway, you were in Brossard today. Mm-hmm. Yesterday was the official opening of rookie camp with medicals and physicals. And today they were on the ice. I would have loved to have been there, but I was in a radio studio, of course, at BPM Sports between 10 and noon, 91.9 FM in Montreal. And you can subscribe to the YouTube channel of BPM Sports and watch us there. But you were at the practice. So you know what? I said I need to have someone on who was there to tell us exactly what happened. Before we get to that, earlier today, the Canadiens made an announcement. There's going to be some changes to their personnel. We thought that this was going to be coming. We didn't know that it was going to be as much as it was. But the Canadiens announced, and here's the press release. Montreal Canadiens Executive Vice President Hockey Operations Jeff Gordon announced on Thursday that the team has made numerous changes to the hockey operations department. To start, Roger Grillo has been hired as a coach consultant and will join Marty St. Louis staff. Regarding the scouting team, Albie O'Connell has been promoted to Chief North American Scout, and Tommy Lehman has been promoted to Chief European Scout. Additionally, Matt Ryan has been hired as a pro scout. Lastly, Dale Lablans has been promoted to head of performance. Stéphane Gervais has been hired as strength and conditioning coach, and Mitch Freeburn will replace Gervais and Laval as the Rockets strength coach. Jeez, that's quite a bit of movement in personnel on this Thursday, huh?
It is. I mean, the biggest news for Canadiens fans is obviously Roger Grillo being named a coaching consultant. Alex Burrows is no longer going to be behind the bench. He stepped away from that position as assistant coach, saying for family reasons, and was on the ice today as in his player consultant role. Grillo has a history with Marty St. Louis, though. He was an assistant coach at the University of Vermont when Marty St. Louis was a player there. After that, he left and he coached at Brown University. He was head coach there for 12 years. And then in 2009, he joined USA Hockey as a regional manager of the American Development Model and was later named director of player development. So this is, I'm sort of thinking that the Canadiens would want to add a coach with more NHL coaching experience, since there's not a ton between Marty and Stefan Robida and Letowski. But this is, they continue to sort of think outside the box. And this is another hiring focused on player development. And
Correct.
a history of that. And that's still the road they're taking. And, I thought they might want somebody to come in with more experience running the power play. But I'm pretty sure Marty St. Louis will be running the power play this year now with Burrows gone.
Yeah.
And there was an interesting scene in that sneak preview to the documentary in a preseason game of Marty and Burrows in the locker room in the intermission, looking at video from the power play, and St. Louis talking about how he wanted more movement. And I thought that was sort of interesting, seeing that in the clip the other day from the first part of the documentary. But again, it's sort of, they said they were going to think outside the box. They thought outside the box when they hired, when Jeff Gorton took over. He said he was going to think outside the box. They thought outside the box when he hired Kent Hughes, a GM with no experience. They thought outside the box when they brought in Marty St. Louis, a head coach with no experience. And now they're bringing in a guy who has a lot of coaching experience, but none in the NHL, but a lot with developing young players and young American players. And the Canadiens have quite a few of those in their system now. So in that part, it makes sense, but I still would have thought they would want to add some more experience behind the bench, sort of like what Ottawa did last year when they brought Jacques Martin in, just to sort of have a guy who's more experienced in running a bench and maybe noticing things that Marty won't notice since the game moves so quick behind the bench. But again, thinking outside the box.
Yeah. But think about this, though. And you're right. And who's going to doubt Jeff Gordon after all the hires that he's made? I mean, so far, they've all turned out pretty nicely. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So today, I the second I found out of the hire, I went to YouTube and I started searching and who's Roger Grillo, and noticed that, he was Marty St. Louis' assistant coach at the University of Vermont. Then he went to Brown, like you said. And I started looking up on YouTube to see what can I find? Even Instagram, pardon me. And all of a sudden, a bunch of videos pop up, right, with USA Hockey. Mm-hmm. And he went in and he goes and he gives a lot of seminars and he gives a lot of speeches and he talks to a lot of people. He talks to a lot of coaches. He talks to a lot of organizations. They've done stuff together with Marty St. Louis as a spokespeople for USA Hockey. And everything I came across, it was player development. It was player development. It was player development. You just talked about it's another player development hire. And it is. And also notice, they didn't call him an assistant coach. They called him a coach consultant. Mm-hmm. Good to believe, I don't know if his place is going to be behind the bench.
It was vague, the press release they sent out. Yeah. They didn't really give any of the background that we just provided. They just sort of said that they had hired him. And that, is he going to be behind the bench? I'm guessing probably not. I mean, a lot of teams only have 3 guys behind the bench. And this guy's going to be around the team all the time. You would think so in this role. I mean, he's done a lot of lectures at hockey, USA Hockey coaching clinics and that. He coached the Ivan Olinka U18 tournament a couple of times with the Team USA. But again, like you said, Tony, it's all about player development and also in coaching. Pascal Vincent, the new head coach of the Laval Rocket, was on the ice this morning in Brossard. He's running this rookie camp. And, just talking with some of the players afterwards, asking Owen Beck, who this is like his 3rd or 4th rookie camp, his first impression. And he said, very intense, like gets a message across about what he wants done. And the thing I found interesting is that after the practice ended, they were on the ice for a couple of hours. After the practice ended, Vincent waited by the door along with his assistant coach where the players go back to the locker room and high-fived every single player as they came off the ice. That's something you don't see, or I haven't really seen or noticed covering rookie camps and training camps in the past. But it's sort of this sort of new philosophy with the Canadiens that everybody's important. Everybody matters. Talk about Lane Hutson today. He's been in town for 3 weeks. He's been looking around for an apartment in Montreal. He was saying his mom's going to come live with him this season, which I think is a good idea for a 20-year-old kid breaking into pro hockey. He said she'll probably be here whether he plays in Laval or she will be here whether he plays in Laval or Montreal, and might go back home to their home in Chicago when the team's on the road. But he spoke about being here for 3 weeks, skating with Suzuki and the other guys that are here, and he says nobody treats him like a rookie. He says it's like everybody's treated equally hanging around these guys now, and that's a change in not just Canadiens culture. I think that's a big change in hockey culture.
Yeah,
and thinking outside the box, and like everybody's important to this team, and that's the way this philosophy is. And with Nick Suzuki as a captain, he mentioned how Nick Suzuki has made him feel comfortable, and the other guys have felt comfortable. So he said he doesn't feel like a rookie coming in here. And here's a guy, he's never been in a rookie camp before, right? Because of NCAA eligibility rules, he wasn't allowed. So this is his first rookie camp. And the column I wrote today, he really stood out on the ice today. Excuse me. They were only doing drills, but him and Logan Mailloux were partnered together, and they look really good. I mean, again, it's only drills, but just they they're together. You have the big guy, you have the smaller guy. They can both skate. They can both cover a lot of ice. Logan Mailloux spoke afterwards of how much fun Lane Hutson is to play with. He just always seems to put the puck right on your stick. So I imagine those guys are going to be together for the 2 games in against the Leaf prospects too.
Yeah, I want to get to Mailloux and Hutson just a little bit later on, but thanks for bringing it up. And you brought up something a couple of minutes ago saying, you know, a lot of people thought that Marty St. Louis probably would have needed like a guy like a Jacques Martin, that kind of experience who can probably see certain things that Marty doesn't just yet. Or I think it's this is a really interesting avenue to go down, because I thought about this, because some of the knocks, or if anyone's looking for anything to say or criticize about Marty St. Louis, would be some coaches, especially coming from coaches. They'll tell you, well, he hasn't put enough emphasis on the defensive side of the game yet, or defensive schemes, or defensive coverage, or defensive strategies, and all that stuff. And I say, well, because he hasn't really had to, right? They're nowhere close to a playoff team over the last couple of years. And what he's trying to do is really try and develop the offensive part of the game, and really wants them to play an offensive brand of hockey. And at one point, he'll introduce what needs to be introduced when the time is right. And I don't think the time was right now. So with that said, some would come back and say, like you just said, yeah, Jacques Martin would be a perfect compliment, because, you know, he would know the defensive part of the game and the defensive concept and the strategies, and Marty knows the offense. So the feeling I get all along, or the feeling I've had, was that whoever was added to the group after Marty, they have to see the game like Marty. You know, Marty sees the game a certain way, and I think those are the people they want to introduce. The people that see the game the same way are the people that they want to introduce to the organization. And that there's no, you know what, I don't pair me with somebody who sees it. I could be wrong, by the way.
You might be right, Tony, but I mean, there's 2 ways you can look at that. It's good to have someone who sees the same way, but maybe it's also good to have someone who sees it a little differently, to sort of challenge Marty on the concepts or the systems. He likes to use the word concepts. I mean, I wasn't specifically saying Jacques Martin, but I was saying somebody like.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
A lot of experience behind an NHL bench. And Marty spoke about, when he first started coaching, just how fast the game moves behind the bench and how hard it is to pick up things. And you know, when you're going from shorthanded to power play and getting your lines back together, everything else, I was going to have one less guy behind the bench, it looks like, to help him with that.
Yeah.
Probably going to be even a little bit tougher. But right from day one, Jeff Gorton said he wanted to modernize the Canadiens, right? He wanted a modern day coach. And that might be why they don't want to bring in an old school type guy, because they don't want to go old school. They want to go new school.
Correct.
They look at the game in a different way. And you're going to play. I mean, we'll find out if it works, right? We're going to see. As you said, at some point, I wrote a column recently why I don't think the Canadiens will make the playoffs this season. And one of the big reasons is last season, I think they gave up the 3rd most shots in the NHL per game. I don't see them improving much on that this year, because they're going to have more young defensemen in the lineup. And the goaltending situation is a little uncertain with Montembeault. I mean, I'm more convinced about Montembeault as a number 1 than I am about Caden Primo as being the backup at this point. But they're going to see a lot of shots. And at some point, as you're right, Marty is at some point is going to have to lock down his defensive zone system a little more. But as to what you said earlier, Tony, he wants these guys to play without fear right now. He wants them to play and show their skill and be offensive. He's not going to tell Lane Hutson to come here and get over the red line and dump the puck in. He's going to.
You're exactly right. What the philosophy they've had since Marty came here is not to stifle offensive talent. It's actually to unlock it, to unlock all the talent, to unlock all the potential, and just to let it spread throughout the entire lineup. And you know, you brought up Hughes and Gordon, so think about this for a second, right? That question I asked you about, I just have a feeling they don't want to put someone in the organization that sees the game the exact opposite way that they do. I'd be willing to bet that if you'd ask them, they'd probably say, no, that's not true. You know what? It's good to have someone with opposing opinions. But I have to ask you this, though. Based on what you know, based on how they talk, what they say, what they preach, Gorton, Hughes, St. Louis, Adam Nicholas, who's in charge of development, and there could be others. Don't you find they all see hockey the same way?
Yes, I see a modern day. I mean, I posted a video on my Twitter account this morning. Before, when I arrived in Brossard this morning, Adam Nicholas was on the second rink working with Arbor Jacki, just on moving across the blue line. in the offensive zone, carrying the puck, giving him different options. And yeah, and it's not only the offensive guys. Michael Pezzetta, I was talking with him last season. He was saying when Marty took over, and Pezzetta as a fourth liner had always been told basically get over the red line, dump it in, forecheck, and get the hell off. And when Marty came in, he started showing them video and saying, no, I don't want you to dump it in. When you have open ice and a chance to skate with the puck, skate with it. And Pezzetta said it was the first time since he turned pro that a coach had ever told him that as a fourth liner. Before it was just dump it in and forechecking and get off the ice. And he said how refreshing that was to him, because anybody in the NHL has offensive talent, right? You don't get there if you don't have skill. And for Pezzetta, he said it was refreshing to have a guy say that. And I think it's refreshing for all these players. And I think it will be refreshing for Patrick Laine when he comes in here with that. They want them to play free and have some offensive creativity. And I think for the younger guys, Laine's already proven he has that. But I think for the younger guys, it's to show them and allow them to prove to themselves that they can make offensive moves at the NHL level that maybe they were uncertain of. They might screw up sometimes and it might go the other way or it might cough it up. But at this point in the rebuild, they're not that concerned. That's not their number one concern. Their number one concern is to let these guys play the game, show the offensive skill they have, not be afraid to make mistakes. When they do make mistakes, learn from, okay, I can't try that. I can't do that in the NHL. I can't do that in the NHL. I need to do something else and make another option. So much of this is development. Adam Nicholas is a really key part of this rebuild. I mean, I see him on the ice all the time in Brossard working one-on-one with guys or working in groups with guys. And Jaden Struble spoke with us the other day about that. When I asked him, I said, is he the loudest coach you've ever had? And he laughed and said, yeah. I mean, we're sitting in the press box behind the glass in Brossard. You can hear every word he says. But he's so, I've written before, nobody loves his job more than Adam Nicholas loves his job. He is passionate about it. And it comes across.
I love my job a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I love my job.
You scream a lot too. But no, I love my job too. But I mean, you can tell when he's on the ice, he absolutely loves what he's doing. And I saw it again this morning with Jack, just one-on-one. And Jack was all ears. Like you'd see, he was asking him questions and going back and forth. So again, and with the coaching hiring today, it's still about development. I mean, they've said, and Kent Hughes, one of the reasons they went out and got Patrick Laine was to give the team more hope and a better chance of making the playoffs. There's excitement around the players, there's excitement around the fans that he's coming in. We'll see how he can do. It'll be interesting to see how much of a leash Marty's willing to give him, because he's known to be not necessarily a great back checker or a great defensive player, but the offensive skill is there. So it'll be interesting to see how that flourishes with him here. And Pascal Vincent, who coached Laine last year in Columbus, made him a healthy scratch for a game in November last year. But he said he had a good relationship with Laine, but sometimes you just need to push guys to get the most out of them. But he said that Patrick Laine is probably the most talented hockey player he's ever coached. And Pascal Vincent has coached a lot of hockey players. So it's going to be interesting to see how that talent flourishes or can flourish with Marty St. Louis as his coach this year.
Yeah, he also said that sometimes decisions like this aren't only taken by one person, right? It's an organizational decision. So, look, we have a lot to talk about today. One of the things, by the way, is we'll mention right now, Demidov and his SKA lost 3-0 to Tractor earlier today. Shutout goes to Montreal Zach Fucale, by the way, a former Montreal Canadiens draft pick. Who made an unbelievable stop at one point during this game versus Grigorenko. So unfortunately for Demidov, he didn't see a lot of ice, right? He played less than 10 minutes in this game. Less than 10 minutes, which is unfortunate. He did show some real good things anyway, and hopefully he gets himself off the fourth line in more than 9 minutes next game. So it's too bad in that respect. Everyone wants to see him play a little bit more. His start this season in terms of timed on ice, actually it was 14 minutes and 2 seconds in game 1. Game 2 at 13 minutes and 36 seconds. Game 3, 10 minutes and 2 seconds. And, hopefully he doesn't have less than 10 minutes in game number 4. But that's it for Demidov. We'll get to that a little bit later. So remember when you were saying the guys that we've talked about, the guys that they've hired, right? There's a familiarity with everyone. Like I know we don't know, and no one really knew who Roger Grillo was, but if you would dig deep, you probably shouldn't be shocked like this, right? Everyone Jeff Gordon brings in Kent Hughes. He has a relationship with Kent. He dealt with Kent when he was a GM, when he was an assistant GM. Kent was an agent. They were friends. They lived close by. They had a relationship. Kent brings in Vincent Lecavalier, his former client, one of his best friends. They're very close. They go looking for a coach. Martin St. Louis, Vinny Lecavalier, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, relationship, all of them. Jeff Gordon brings in a scout, Bobroff. He was his scout with the New York Rangers. Relationship. Marty St. Louis goes out now, gets a coach consultant, Grillo. He was his assistant coach with Vermont. He's part of USA Hockey. They saw each other at seminars, took part in seminars together. They have a relationship. I mean, this is it, right? It's familiarity, a relationship. And that's who they have. Adam Nicholas, relationship with Marty, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, all those guys. They're all friends. They're all close.
Yeah, and you can add Jim Ramsey, who came in as the head athletic therapist.
That is correct. Yes, from the Rangers,
New York. Another guy that familiarity. And I mean, that was a knock with some people on Marc Bergevin, as he hired buddies and yes men to be around him. But I don't think these guys are yes men. Like, I'd love to be in a room when Gorton and Hughes and St. Louis get together and have a beer or two and talk hockey, because I'm sure they talk about players. I imagine they argue back and forth about guys. I don't think they're one of the. I don't think they're not intimidated by each other. In other words, Marty's not afraid to tell Jeff Gorton something or disagree with him. And maybe I'm speculating here. Maybe that was the case with Bergevin. I'm not certain. But like, you watch the behind the scenes videos I had from the scouting meetings the last 2 years, and Kent Hughes saying, we want different opinions. Like, speak up. Like, whatever you have to say, speak up. And there was one last year when they were talking, it was a debate about Jacob Fowler before they drafted him. They didn't mention his name in the video, but two of the scouts were going at it pretty good about which goalie they should draft. So I think there's a comfort level with these guys. They're not afraid to disagree on opinions, and that's a good thing. And we'll see all this moving forward. Everything, what they've done makes sense. I mean, I still question not having a little bit more experience behind the bench. But I also questioned last year when they kept Juraj Slafkovsky here, and I wrote a column early last season saying they got to send this guy back to the AHL. He's not ready to play in the NHL. And look what happened with him. They stuck with him. Adam Nicholas worked with him. They all worked with him. And, we saw the results at the end. So they're smart guys. They have a vision. They have a plan, and they're sticking to it. And it's still, this hiring today of Grillo just highlights again that the main focus going into this season, they'd like to make the playoffs. They were even afraid to mention the playoffs last year, but it's still about player development. And seeing Logan Mailloux, on the ice today with Hutson was another for that, right? Like, if the two guys at this camp, there's 23 guys, they're the two guys that have the best chance of making the team.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
not going to play together if they make the team. If they make the team, I see Hutson playing with Savard and Mailloux playing with Jack. And I asked Mailloux about that this morning, because they played together last season when Jack went back to Laval, and he said they're still close. They keep in touch all the time. Says he thought they played well together. They could move the puck. They're very physical. David Savard, and I also asked Lane Hutson about playing with David Savard, and he said he did everything he could to help him. Spoke to him on the ice. Spoke to him off the ice. And the other thing he mentioned about David Savard, I don't think I've really heard anybody say that before about one of his teammates. They all talk about what a great guy is, what a funny guy is.
Funny guy. Struble the other day said that Savard's the biggest joker on the team.
Yeah, but Lane Hutson today said his competitiveness with David Savard. He said he's so competitive, and it's contagious. And that's something I haven't heard other players say about him. But for a young player coming into the league and seeing that, and Logan Mailloux, speaking with him today also, he talked about last season he had some ups and downs in Laval. He said he learned from both of them, and he learned how to be a good pro. Like, you got to show up every day and compete as hard as you can, whether it's practice, whether it's a game, whatever it is. And he also spoke about how it's a little tendencies that you need to do right. And those things are a lot of the times the difference between a player who makes it to the NHL and doesn't make it to the NHL. But just hearing that Lane Hutson say that today about David Savard and his compete level, that's one thing the Canadiens want these guys to do. They want these guys, whatever skill level you have or whatever you bring to the ice, the number one thing they want to see is guys compete hard all over the ice.
You know, it's I've been laughing for the last 5 minutes because you said you'd love to be behind closed doors because Gordon and Hughes encourage everyone to speak up and see what they say. I remember when Marc Bergevin was the general manager, I told him, I said, what's going on with you guys though? I get the feeling that behind closed doors, you know, everyone just agrees with each other. And he was like, no, Tony, remember when he said this? Oh, I can tell you that there's a lot of FUs going around the world, the room. That was pretty funny.
But one of the things with Bergevin, I mean, I think you'll agree with me. One of the was down, he was insecure in a lot of ways, right? And I think that really hurt him as a GM, especially at the end, down the end. So, like, I'm not sure how comfortable guys might have been disagreeing with him. Again, I'm speculating here, but
it's an interesting point. Hey, listen, and by the way, Marc Bergevin had his strengths too. I thought he
without a doubt. I mean,
he had a real good hockey eye. He had a real
yesterday
good hockey
was the 6th anniversary.
He won most of his trades.
Yesterday was the 6th anniversary of the Pacioretty trade, and although Suzuki wasn't the guy he originally wanted in that trade,
it worked out great.
It worked out great, and he was sort of painted into a corner at that point, right? Like he knew he had to get rid of Pacioretty.
He wanted to get rid of Pacioretty.
He didn't want Pacioretty at the golf
somebody else. Yeah,
he did not want Pacioretty at the golf tournament. That's why that trade was done at 1:00 in the morning, the day of the golf tournament. He did not want all the distractions and everything else going on because Michel Therrien had his golf tournament a month or so before, and I think you were there too, Tony. I remember that was, the whole thing was Pacioretty and Bergevin and them shaking hands, and Alan Walsh, the new agent for Pacioretty, was there, and it was ugly, right? It wasn't. It was.
Pardon me. No, I'm going to correct you if you don't mind. It wasn't Michel Therrien. It was Pacioretty's golf tournament.
Oh, Pacioretty's tournament. My mistake. Yes,
it was Pacioretty had his own tournament, and Marc Bergevin hadn't replied to the invitation up until near the very end. And then Marc Bergevin showed up. And when Marc Bergevin showed up, all the cameras were on. They taped the handshake between Bergevin and Pacioretty. Everyone knew that the two were not on the same page. Bergevin wanted Pacioretty out. He wanted to trade him. Pacioretty had parted ways with Pat Brisson, went out to bring in Alan Walsh because Pacioretty had the impression that Brisson's relationship with Bergevin actually, in this case, instead of helping him, was hurting him because he thought that Brisson was siding with Bergevin, that Brisson was telling Pacioretty, you should have. Remember, Brisson told Pacioretty he should have accepted the deal to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There was a trade on the table. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was at the draft.
Yep.
And Pacioretty said, no, I'm not going. And Brisson was encouraging him to go, or so the story goes. Pacioretty parted ways with him because he felt that Brisson, in this case, was working more for Bergevin than he was for himself. He brought in a new voice in Alan Walsh to try and salvage the thing because he wanted to remain in Montreal. His family wanted to remain in Montreal. Alan Walsh tried his very best at Pacioretty's golf tournament that you talked about. I think Paolo Presti was a very good friend of his. Max is godfather to Paolo's kids and vice versa. He got up and he delivered a speech that, we'd love to keep Max in Montreal. We're hoping that Jeff Molson will agree to keep Max in Montreal. And everyone was talking about keeping Max in Montreal. But when Bergevin showed up to that golf tournament with all the cameras taking pictures, you remember the handshake? It was not genuine on either part. It was cold as cold. It was uncomfortable watching it on television.
That's a good word. That's a good word. And Brisson and Bergevin were childhood friends, right? They grew up together.
Yes.
That's where you felt that. And he called Alan Walsh late one night when he was frustrated and said, will you represent me? Because he was also representing Jonathan Drouin and Patrick Drouin were close. And, Bergevin wanted
Alan, by the way, talked to Jeff Molson on a couple of occasions and tried, Jeff, let's try and salvage them. We can fix this, and the money won't be an issue. We'll find something that's fair. And, but
Bergevin wanted him gone just like he wanted PK gone, right? And he got his way with both of them.
Jeff diverted to Marc Bergevin. Marc Bergevin, he wanted a new captain of his hockey club, right? Because if you recall, that whole thing about Bergevin speculating that Pacioretty wanted out and Pacioretty saying that he never asked to want out, we still don't know exactly how it went down. But what we do know is there was a confrontation between the two in Bergevin's office. And Bergevin wanted Max Pacioretty to follow through on certain things as a captain. And remember, the whole thing was trying to get PK in line.
Yeah.
Remember, they thought that PK was had his own agenda, running his own thing, and they had to get PK in line. And Bergevin was putting pressure on Max to try and get PK in line. Max was trying his very best, but it is what it is.
Well, isn't it going to be strange now with Pacioretty signing a PTO with Toronto? Preseason, I have a couple of preseason games against the Leafs. It'll be really weird seeing Max Pacioretty coming back in a Maple Leafs uniform.
Yeah, but good for him, though.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, with Max Pacioretty, people criticized him when he was here that he didn't work hard enough. Maybe he scored 30 goals every year on a not very good hockey team with David Desharnais as a center. That's not a knock on David Desharnais, but there's a lot of better number one centers than there were at that time in the league.
Yeah,
and he wore the C. He wasn't a natural leader, but he took pride in wearing the C. He knew what the C stood for in this city, especially, and he took it to heart. And he did the best job that he could as a captain. And Bergevin didn't think he did a good enough job, and he was gone.
I'll tell you this, and I said this before. I said this yesterday on BPM Sports Radio. I had a good relationship with Max Pacioretty early on in his career, and at one point, my nephew was doing a project on concussions, and I gave him a call. Said, "Can you help him out?" And he said, "Sure, come over." And I went over to my nephew to his condo back in Nuns Island at the time. He was living there. He was trying to raise money to buy special equipment, of course, for concussions after he suffered that concussion when he got hit by Zdeno Chara. My son and his friends were going to a soccer tournament in Portugal and Spain. I was going to do a fundraiser to try and raise money. And I called him. I said, "Hey, you know what? You want to get involved and we'll give some proceeds to your foundation as well." And he said, "Sure, sounds good." Like not complicated, right? A very simple guy. And he's like, "You know what? You organize it and I'll be there." And that's what we did, right? Max Pacioretty's a real good guy. Unfortunately, and I said this yesterday, criticism bothered him.
Yeah.
And the criticism sometimes, if it was even legit or warranted or really strong opinions, it would still bother him. It bothered him a lot. And, I know that on a couple of occasions, Stu, he was really mad at you. And I know that on a couple of occasions, he was really mad at me. But what did we say? We said that he always carried himself very well. But maybe he wasn't the best leader the Canadiens could have as a captain. What did we say? He was an unbelievable goal scorer, but he was a player who played on the periphery. Like, all that is true. So what did we say? That he was a great goal scorer? Correct. But maybe he's complimentary. Maybe he's not that go-to guy. I think that the criticism was always fair. At one point, the turning point in my relationship with him was, it was around November, and I got I heard how things were going, and it was pretty much told to me that Max Pacioretty would not be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens by the golf tournament. It was in November, and I came out and I said, Max Pacioretty will not be the Montreal Canadiens captain by the golf tournament. He will not be there by the golf tournament. He will be gone. Pacioretty took that really badly. Things went downhill from there, and guess what? He was traded in the early hours of the morning of the golf tournament, and he was not there. And having said that, and even though I wish I still would have a relationship with Max, I said what I said. I said what I said I believed. I think they were all pretty strong opinions. And plus, I gave a prediction that came true. I think your criticisms of him were warranted. Well,
he got mad at me. He got mad at me, Tony, when I asked him a question at one of the golf tournaments after they acquired Shea Weber, if he had thought about giving the C to Weber.
Yes, I remember that. You're right.
He got very upset with me for asking that in a scrum at the golf tournament, but it was a question I think a lot of people were wondering. But we worked that out afterwards. We chatted one-on-one. He told me why I was upset. I told him why I worked the question, and we got along fine after that. It was, but you're right. He took things personally. But part of that because he had so much pride in being captain of the Montreal Canadiens. And even though he was an American, he fully understood what wearing the C in this city means.
So, look, I will say this, right? It's not because we didn't talk down the stretch. Max Pacioretty's a really good guy. I got nothing bad to say about Max Pacioretty. Just, criticism weighed on him. Like, he's if he heard stuff that he didn't like, it bothered him and carried over. And everyone's made differently and stuff like that. And some are like that. And, to Pacioretty or even to others that are like that in sport, I say this, if we say good things about you, and then we say 1, 2, 3, it's just Pacioretty's one of those. And there's some that are like that, right? They'll forget about all the good that you said.
Yeah.
And they'll always just remember the thing that they didn't like. And in his case, it was me guaranteeing that he wouldn't be there by the golf tournament. Like, it really bothered him. And
you obviously trusted your source at the time. I mean,
I trusted my source.
Greg Fisher hired me at the Gazette. He was a mentor to me, and he always told me, criticize but be fair. And I always tried. I think I've always done that. If I criticized Max Pacioretty or any other player, when I criticized Yuri Slafkovsky at the beginning of last season, I thought it was fair. He was a kid who just looked lost in the NHL, especially in his own end, and he wasn't getting any better at that point.
Yeah, and never make it personal, right? And
no, it wasn't personal. And people would tell me, "You hate." How can you not like Yuri Slafkovsky? He's such a likable young man. He's such a likable guy. I like him a lot. I'd love to see him do great. He's been great with the media. His teammates like him. He's done a remarkable job adjusting to a new life here and succeeding when the odds are stacked against any 18-year-old coming into the NHL. He's a really good young man. His teammates love him. He's fun to be around, but he wasn't playing well. My job, I get paid when guys play well, I say they play well, and guys play bad, I say they play bad. But I've always tried to be fair.
And how could you not like Max Pacioretty, right? He was the Canadiens' best goal scorer for the longest time without really having a premier centerman. He had seasons of 30 goals, 33, 35, 37, 39. A real good family man, carried himself extremely well, never got into trouble off ice, would always be home. Doesn't drink, he eats well, drinks well. Everybody loves Max Pacioretty, but
I wish him the best in Toronto, but it's going to be tough, man. 2 blown out Achilles tendons, blowing out your Achilles, that's tough.
He could score, though. He could definitely score. If the Achilles tendon holds up, he'll score. Yeah. Okay, let's get to Mailloux and Hutson now. You talked about them. What did you see from them today?
With Hutson, it's, as I wrote in my columns, exactly what allowed him to dominate in NCAA offense. He's so quick on his feet. He's so shifty. His vision's incredible. The passes he makes up and down the ice, the way he cuts. I asked him, he's 5'10", 162 he's weighing now. And, I said, defending in the NHL, what part of your defensive game do you think is going to help you the most? He said his ability to angle guys off and push them into, he calls it, bad parts of the ice.
Yeah.
But his vision and the way he moves the puck, as I mentioned earlier, Logan Mailloux saying the puck's right on your stick every time you get it. So that stood out. And Logan Mailloux, his size, he's just such a big guy, and he covers so much ice so quickly. Like I posted a video on my Twitter account today, also one of the drills, and like coming out of the teams coming out of the defensive zone, and right at center ice, he catches the guy and he goes right across the ice and chases him, hammers him into the boards. He covers a lot of ice time, and he can skate. And he's coming into this camp saying, he realistically believes he can make this team this season. I believe he can also. I think it's going to come down to, between I see the season starting. You got Matheson and Goulet together. You got Hutson and Savard together, as I mentioned earlier. Jackeye and Mailloux, and then you got Barron and Struble, right? And Barron's the guy who have to clear waivers. So I think Struble might be the odd man out in this equation. But I'd be surprised if the Canadiens don't start the season with both Logan Mailloux and Hutson in the lineup.
Wow. You see, I prior to this conversation, I definitely have Struble in the lineup. But I will tell you this, and I didn't have Mailloux starting with the Canadiens because I
had Struble ahead of Mailloux. It's possible. We'll see what happens at training camp, right? But this team has shown. We're talking about modern day hockey, modern day thinking. They've shown with Arbor Jackeye, and who came into a training camp.
Yeah,
nobody expected him to be on the team. Nobody.
No, you're right.
Not even him.
You're right, because
team. So let me put this at the job. I'd really be surprised if Lane Hutson's not on the team to start the season.
I think he will be, but
he's not. And Mailloux, I think if he's not on the team, it's because he really struggled during preseason games.
So I think Lane Hutson will be on the team, and I had said Mailloux no because one season with in the American Hockey League with the Rocket, and prior to that, we know that he had shortened seasons in the Ontario Hockey League because of COVID and his situation where he was suspended for quite a bit. But I have to tell you, you were there today, I wasn't, but I saw some images. my God, Mailloux looks really good. Like, he doesn't just look like a defenseman.
Oh,
He
no.
doesn't just look like an NHL defenseman. He looks like a really good one. Like, he's
They were
prime.
doing one drill where they were going sort of up and down the ice. You go down one way on defense and go back the other way, sort of an offense. And the speed, like he goes from the goal line to center ice in about 3 or 4 strides. Like he's powerful on his skates. He's a big, strong kid, right? And he's very. Jack Guy's like that too. Jack Guy covers a lot of ice pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
But Mailloux's even like a notch above that. Like he's just he's a little smoother. He's a little better on his skates. But that's why I'm thinking, like, if that's your third pairing or your second pairing, depending, like those guys aren't going to be fun to play against.
No, they're not in ending. What did you see from Reinbacher and Engstrom?
Reinbacher and Engstrom, they played together too. They didn't do anything to really make me jump out. Reinbacher looks bigger. Like he looks like he's a little bit stronger than he was this last year. He spoke also to the media afterwards. He didn't say anything really earth-shattering. I mean, I'm sure when I think about Hutson, I'd be shocked if he doesn't start the season with the Canadiens. Doesn't mean he'll play the whole year here, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't start. For Reinbacher, I think they're going to do the same thing that they did with Mailloux. I think Reinbacher needs a full season in Laval. Get used to, especially adjusting to the small rink and just playing a ton of minutes down there. Like they're going to play the heck out of him, right? He'll be first unit, be power player, probably penalty kill. They'll play him like crazy down there. I think that's the best thing right now for his development. The other guy who caught my eye today, and he's forgotten by a lot of people or considered a bust by some people for some reason, Philippe Massar. He was, he's so skilled out there. You see one-on-one drills, the way he can move the puck, and people are talking, he sort of lives in the shadow of Slafkovsky, right? And I asked him about that today, and he said, he was asked if he's going to live with Slafkovsky this year. And he said, Uri just bought has a new condo with 4 bedrooms. He's got lots of room. But Massar has a girlfriend from Kitchener, so she's probably going to come live with him here. So he says he'll probably live by himself. But I looked it up, and there's only 9 players from that 2022 draft who have played more than 7 games in the NHL so far. Slafkovsky's number 1. He's played 121 games. Logan Cooley's second at 82. Massar was taken 26th. After that, the 6 guys who were taken after him in the first round, only 2 of them have played in the NHL, and they've both played 1 game. So people who are thinking, Philippe Massar is a bust, and he's 20 years old. Yeah. And I said to him today, I said, do you sort of feel that? Like he's on the normal progression, right? Yeah. First round pick. Of course, yes. They play at least 1 more year in junior or 2 years. Like Owen Beck wasn't a first round pick, but he played a couple of more years in junior. He had a taste of the AHL last season. He played 2 games before they sent him back. I asked him what he learned about that, and he said he learned just how fast the game is, even at the AHL level, and how quick it is. So that was an eye-opener for him, I think. He came here. Last year at the rookie camp, he was talking about how he expected to be in Laval, and that's what he was sort of focusing on, was being in Laval. And Canadiens had almost told him he was going to play in Laval. But 2 games in, the Canadiens saw that he wasn't ready. And they said, well, you're not going to put a guy in a league where he's not ready to play. So they sent him back to Kitchener. But I think it was a bit of an eye-opener for him, too, just how fast it is at the AHL level, never mind the AHL level. But he's 20 years old, and you watch him today, like one-on-one drills and that. I mean, there's a reason why he was drafted in the first round, right? He's got a lot of skill.
You're right. And Stu and Andy, look, guys that get drafted National Hockey League, they don't usually end up making the National Hockey League until 3 or 4 years later, if they do. Mm-hmm. And the ones that do make it right away, of course, are the ones that are really extra special and most likely top 3 picks overall. Stu, great stuff as always. Day 2 of Montreal Canadiens, or we could call it day 3 because day 1 was fitness and medicals on Wednesday. Today was day 2, but first day on the ice. And tomorrow will be day 3, second day on the ice. And then, of course, on Saturday and on Sunday, they're going to play prospects of the Toronto Maple Leafs, rookies of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that should be a lot of fun. Games will be televised, by the way.
There'll be a full house at the Bell Center. It should be a good atmosphere. I think the tickets are like $10. A lot of people who can't afford to go to regular games and bring their family, I'm sure it'll be a fun place.
Good value. Thanks, Stu. We'll talk to you soon, my man.
All right. Take care, Tony.
All right. There you have it. Thanks so much to everyone watching. Appreciate it very much. Comment 6, share it with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Reviews. Our partners are Energy Transportation Group, Bittt, Tibi, and Playground, and we thank them very much. For Shane Gamo and Master Control, you've been watching the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.